Hello, Professor. Today we'll be talking about the organizational culture and creativity. Let's start with the three approaches that currently exist over there, and starting with the survey research approach, let's take a look at its benefits and drawbacks. When it comes to benefits, it is quick and efficient. It provides for anonymity and quantitative data. And what it means that the survey research approach, as it is using surveys, it is not time consuming, as people can quickly complete those surveys within 5 to 20-minute ranges. And it provides anonymity, as people do not have to expose their names while completing the surveys. And it is a great source of quantitative versus qualitative data, more specifically because it depends on the questions that are being asked within the survey, and therefore it is providing you with a quantitative data that can be easily analyzed afterwards. But when it comes to drawbacks, due to this quantitative data and quick and efficiency, it is providing you with a fairly general understanding. It also has limited contextual information and potentially biased responses. When it comes to biased responses, some users who are taking surveys, they are sharing more generalized opinion rather than their own opinion, because they don't want to be separated from a specific group and they don't want to be standing out. And therefore, some people tend to be biased within survey research approach. Now let's move further to the analytical descriptive approach. In this case, it is a detailed analysis that provides contextual background and has qualitative data. So in this case, as you're using a descriptive approach, it allows you to have a more detailed analysis compared to the survey analysis, for example, because it digs deeply into the values and benefits and even some of the underlying assumptions of the organization, and more specifically the employees that are working within the organization. Therefore, the contextual background becomes really crucial and important about their culture and how they make their decisions and what are their beliefs and values. But there are also a few issues over here. So for example, it is time consuming. It could be potentially subjective, and more specifically subjective because of the researcher, which is gathering that analytical descriptive research, because he or she would be the one creating and generalizing the ideas that have been shared by the study group, and therefore they can be sometimes subjective in by their own opinions. And it is also more difficult to build a bigger picture. As I mentioned before, it is more contextualized and more detailed. Therefore, the bigger picture can sometimes be mistaken or even a false positive or false negative. Now, lastly, taking a look at the ethnographic approach, it specifically focuses on culture. It has very rich data and it has cultural observations. So in this case, as we are looking at the ethnographic approach, it digs into specifically how anthropologists are engaging themselves within the culture rather than necessarily asking questions from people who have been living within the culture. They embrace themselves within the culture, which can also be extremely time consuming compared to the previous two methods, as some anthropologists stay within their study group for months or even sometimes years to fully understand how they live and understand their cultural backgrounds. And as mentioned previously, it can also be subjective because the researcher is the one who's making the final ideas and outcomes of the research. And in rare cases, it can also result in ethical issues where the researcher embraces themselves in an ethnic group where that specific ethnic group is not really appreciating the researcher being there and filming and recording all of their traditions. And therefore, it can result in ethical issues that can be caused by that. Now, taking a look at the impact of analytical descriptive approach on Avery Products Corporation, which is the company that I'm currently working at. I decided to pick this specific research because we have already conducted survey researches previously, and I believe this one would provide us with a significantly more detailed understanding of our cultural backgrounds within the company. And It also provides a clear understanding of the employees' beliefs and values. It gives an insight into how employees interact with one another and how to encourage more communication within the organization. And it builds more creative environment and a goal-oriented culture, and allows to avoid unforeseen cultural conflicts between the employees, because they're all aware of those specific cultural beliefs and values that have been conducted within the analytical descriptive research, and the managerial / the leadership team would also be aware of those changes and differences between the cultures of different employees, and therefore they would be able to tailor to them more specifically and create a more motivated and productive labor force within the company. Now, lastly, taking a look at the importance of organizational culture. It allows organizations to better understand its employees and their goals and objectives within the firm. It provides a better understanding of the organization's expectations. It makes employees more motivated to work for a specific organization versus another. In this case, it refers specifically to the reputation of the company that gets built up due to their organizational culture that has been popular around the world, and therefore some people they would be more willing to work at a specific company which values organizational company versus a company that doesn't value that. And it also builds trust within the organization and establishes norms and standards due to those specific organizational rules and laws that have been established. People are able to fully embrace themselves within the culture and truly understand what their position is and what they're able to do in the company and what they shouldn't be doing within the company. And it also allows companies to avoid unnecessary cultural conflicts and potential lawsuits against the organization. And so in this case, by having those specific set of rules, they are able, and cultural norms, they're able to avoid those lawsuits of their employees who are leaving the company due to cultural cleansing or any sort of discrimination, which is not tolerated by the company. And as a result, it avoids the potential monetary refunds that would be required due to lawsuits. And yes, thank you for listening to this presentation. Thank you and goodbye.